there, brave souls. Welcome to Trauma is Expensive with your host, Micah Bravery. Here, we don't just talk about trauma. We count the cost and we make the change. With every episode, we dive deep into the heart of trauma, its implications, and the resilient transformations it can ignite. Through conversations, insights, real stories, and unflinching honesty, this podcast is here to empower every survivor to turn their pain into progress. So let's take a journey together as we understand, confront, and finally heal. Welcome to www.traumaisexpensive.com, your platform for change. Now, let's get started.
What is up, my beautiful people? Welcome to Trauma is Expensive. I am your host, Micah. Got producer Crystal in the building.
Hello.
And today we have our very special co-host, Miss Angelica Ross.
What's good? What's going on?
What's going on? So I have to, before we go into this, I have to tell my Angelica Ross story.
Yes. Oh, you have an Angelica Ross story. You know, I've met a few people that have an Angelica Ross story. Some of them good, some of them bad, but
right.
you know.
This one might start off bad, but you got to wait to the end and end up good, right?
Okay, yes.
Because I was introduced to you, of course, through Pose, right? So it was random one day. I was on Netflix and Electra, the scene they had was like Electra telling somebody off. Got me interested. Cool, gonna watch it. Of course, watch it. Did like everybody did. Fell in love with Blanca. Hated everybody else. You know what I'm saying? So I did not like Candy. You hear me? Candy was mean as hell. I was like, ooh.
Well, I don't know if she was mean, but okay.
Yeah. Well, you know, in the beginning, and it's like,
yes.
you don't learn the stories until it go by. But I'm like, ooh, Miss Candy, nasty, right? So if you guys don't know, Angelica plays Candy. Go watch Pose. I think it's really dope. Yes. Another reason why I kind of became infatuated in Pose is because I actually grew up in New York City in that era. So I used to hang out at those piers, and I never knew anybody that kind of had HIV or was exposed to HIV or those kind of things. So it just showed me also like my world was a complete bubble because I used to hang out there, but I was young. I was 16. I kind of stayed on the safe side of the piers and those kind of things. Well, anyway, it gets to the episode where I think like Electra kills somebody and they come to you to help get rid of the body, right? So I was like, okay, I'll get rid of the body. But
now you need a bitch. Now you need a bitch. Okay.
But you said this line to I think it was to Blanca. You said you always think doing the right thing is the right thing to do. I'm kind of paraphrasing. I'm not
yes. Oh, yes.
But there's something to that effect that you always think doing the right thing is the right thing to do. Yeah. And I don't know why that line hit me so much, but it was the conviction that you had behind the line. Mm-hmm. I was like, okay, this actress has been through some shit because she kind of like just delivered that line and it made so much sense.
You felt that.
I was like, no one else but you could have said that, right?
Wow. And I love that you're even saying that because it is moments like that. As an actor, our job is to bring truth to a character into a role and make them feel real and not that you're, just playing something.
Right.
And for so many Black trans women, I think it's just the experience as well. And so many people who have lived on the opposite side of morality's judgment.
Right.
That says that that creates a definition, a determination, or some sort of, like almost like trying to cast a spell over your life about, what is reality.
Right.
And and you can say all you want to say, but I'm gonna tell you one thing, sweetie. From this perspective, calling the cops ain't really the thing you want to do, honey.
Right.
Blanca.
Right.
So that was. That just comes from knowing, being in those spaces and knowing that you got to rely on community. I have never in my life felt like I could rely on cops.
Right.
It's always been community.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy because I always talk about individual truth. And I think to me, it comes to individual truth. Like what's a reality for me isn't a reality for you,
Absolutely.
So, and I think that we forget that both can be true at the same time. I too don't trust the cops. When I was younger, my cousin was killed by a police officer. and the police officer was asleep with my cousin's wife and ended up being a whole
Wow.
story. And my cousin came home early one day and he shot him. So, and completely got away with it. No time, no nothing.
Wow, such a random story.
Right.
I know you hear my sarcasm, but go ahead.
You're right. It's so random, right? It's never happened before.
Yes.
Right. So cool. So I started looking into you after I heard that line, and I was like, okay, I don't know. In that moment, I was like, you know what? You was straight judging Candy, but it also became about you, the person behind Candy, because once again, it was the conviction of the.
But can I tell you? But let me tell you that is, you want to talk about. I love that this podcast, is contextualized in the framework of talking around trauma, because I think one of the hardest things about trauma is being able to see it clearly.
Right.
Because I think that that's what keeps people in a space of suffering.
Right.
Because pain is pain, but suffering is something that you're attaching yourself to.
Right.
Because one thing I don't do is suffer fools, so I don't attach myself to none of the foolery.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? But when it comes to trauma, and especially shared trauma, things that we all have pieces of because we've come up in this society that is America, that is the fake ass dream of the pursuit of happiness and free will and all these different things, until you find out, and you read the fine print.
Right.
So again, that line that you're talking about Candy saying, just because you think doing the right thing is what I don't even remember the line now, and I got to go now back and look at the line, but I know the essence of the line. And so the truth in that is like a barometer that I'm constantly brought to every scene, right? So to think about that fact that I'm bringing this element of truth, which in the best ways with art provides a reflection.
Definitely.
Truth and the best art, you see yourself reflected somewhere in it.
Right.
So to own the fact of the judgment of someone like Candy,
right,
and from that state is to say that this isn't the first time, because not whatever this, we do this. And the thing is that, like, even with me, Angelica Ross,
right,
I sometimes am very loud about a lot of causes and a lot of things, and people want me to sit down and shut up.
Right. Yeah, that was going to be.
Even I'm talking about even people within liberal spaces,
right,
and even people within LGBT community,
right,
and even people within Black and brown LGBT community spaces, and even people within the trans community. Like, to break it all the way down is to say that, girl, but where I want someone to do is pick up a big ass magnifying glass and please tell me where you find the lie at.
Right.
In anything that I am standing up and saying. And that is the kind of business that Candy stood on. And so what was so wildly reciprocal and heartbreaking and somewhat, when someone lives vicarious, it was such a vicarious experience, but it was one that was reciprocal, because the tears that I cried for Candy, the frustration that you saw, the so much of what I brought to that character was what I knew I was experiencing or would experience in my own life.
Right, definitely.
I was never meant to be. I was not written to be the main character of that show.
Right.
But I'm one of the stories that sticks with people.
Definitely.
And all I can say about that is that there was so much intention behind what I did. It was not about being in front of the camera. It was not about being famous. It was not about being the main one. It was not about any of that. It was about being real.
Definitely.
And every single moment, that was my ultimate goal, was to be real about the moment. Because think about it this way. Let's just say the scene is a scene and I'm in the ballroom and it's about Blanca, played by MJ Rodriguez, who we love.
We do love.
And Dominique Rodriguez. And let's say we got Dominique in the scene. We got Haley Sahar. We got all these other folks. But the story, as is written, is all about them.
Right.
How do you expect me to feel about that?
Right.
So roll the cameras, bitch. You
Right.
know what I'm saying?
Right.
And let's go, because I'm gonna give you a very real embodiment.
Yeah, you did do that. Yeah. But see, that's what I was gonna say. So then it's like I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna look up Angelica Ross. And the first thing I read about you was that you was a troublemaker.
A troublemaker.
Yeah. And I don't know, and I don't want to like quote anybody, but I feel like it was a Ryan Murphy quote or something that somebody was quoting or something like that. Not to call anybody out there, but that just made me more interested now, because I'm like, oh, I like troublemakers, So I started following you on Instagram, and it's like, once again, everything you said, you stand up for everybody. And I think that is so beautifully amazing, right? Because, me, I didn't realize how much I didn't do until I started watching your stuff, and then I was like, wow, like I'm not educated about none of this stuff, like I didn't get the Palestine war, and I didn't
but that's so intentional. And what I want to make space for, because again, in a mental health space and conversation, always make space for quote unquote the reality of things. And the reality is, it's not just happenstance.
Right.
That you didn't know anything about Palestine, or that I didn't either.
Right.
I was told that it was complicated.
Right.
And then we all found out it was actually corrupt.
Right.
And so it's the understand the machine of an understanding. This is, I say a lot of different things, and I need, hopefully people are listening, is what I'm going to say. But I'll say this, is that we understand that what makes the world go round is currency.
Right.
And currency is calculated and transferred at different rates depending on what country you're in.
Right.
The exchange rates are different.
Right.
Technology has discovered a way in turning our attention into currency.
Right.
And that is what is behind social media. Without our attention, there is no social media.
Right.
There is no Instagram without eyes to look at the photos. So I was in a space where, when you let that happen organically, we were organically moving into a space where collectively as community, we were organizing under hashtags and under many things to be able to organize and disseminate information and distribute information.
Right.
Billionaires, people with things and interests and all that, they saw all of it. I've been at so many tech conferences, every tech company you can think of.
Right. You have your own tech company, right?
And I have my own tech company, and still am getting deeper into the sectors of cybersecurity, especially as I start to talk about politics and getting into the political conversation.
Right.
Some of my things is about understanding your life and your really real intersections and experience. And my experience is not just being a Black trans woman; it's being a Black trans woman in tech. And in business and in a lot of things. So I'm not just someone running their mouth. I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I know what I'm talking about when we're talking about metrics. So what I do know is that we go from a time when you have a lot of white people who have been benefiting off of copying things, whether it's on TikTok and blah, 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 whatever, but stealing the attention that Black people and brown people were creating off of dances and different things or whatever, and them getting that attention over to their platforms.
Right.
You have people like myself, people who were powerful speakers, whether it's Feminista Jones or, whoever else, Amanda Seal, whoever else that might be saying different things, and the platform says, we found a way to create an algorithm.
Right.
So now your 480,000 followers you thought you had, you see that 200 likes you just got on that?
Right. Right.
Yeah, bitch.
Right.
So you have to make room for understanding the system has always created tools to keep you from understanding, to keep you from knowing.
Right.
That is why it has to be up to you and the individual. And sometimes we have to remind people
Right.
that you need to be responsible for your own education. You need to be responsible for your own, because your ignorance is not just bliss. Your ignorance will also get your ass whooped in certain places.
Right.
Your ignorance will also cause you to get your purse stolen. Your ignorance will, you know what I'm saying? Like if you just don't know what the hell is going on, you just walking around with no information. So as an adult, boo-boo, you need to, now I'm not saying to you, you know what I'm saying? I'm speaking.
No. Look.
This is how I get going. You know what I'm saying? This is how I get going sometimes.
No, I feel you.
But just saying, as an adult, you need to put and understand that this is not, none of this is happenstance. This is a system, sweetie.
Right.
And the more that you recognize you are part of the system, whether you think so or not.
Right.
And then to take responsibility. And for your audience that is listening right now, and I want to give you, if you have not heard this definition, I have been preaching this definition for a couple of years now. I heard this definition from a Black woman who was a Buddhist that I learned. I didn't even know her personally. I just saw a tape one day of her talking.
Right.
And it was just so powerful. And she said that responsibility is the ability to respond. Her name was Linda Johnson.
Right.
And ever since I got that, it is the one seed that continues to blossom new understanding.
Right.
Because what I have to understand is we live in an ableist world, a world that wants to tell people who maybe they have hearing problems, maybe they have physical limitations, maybe they have mental limitations, maybe they have whatever. They want to tell people with different abilities that what they can and cannot do.
Right.
And sometimes, unfortunately, especially people who don't recognize that there's a system, you don't recognize that you're systematically being conditioned out of your ability to respond.
Right. So
your responsibility.
Right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I was going to say, so kind of going into that, and kind of bringing trauma into this. So I kind of was a person that went through a lot of trauma growing up. My first memory is of being molested. You know, I don't. Mm-hmm. And then I always grew up and I was a pretty kid. I used that word. Like,
how old were you?
4.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. I was 4 years old, and it happened for a really, really long time. We grew up in New York City. My mom kind of managed the building, and it's like, I don't know what it was about me. I used to blame myself all the time because it was like multiple men. And because it happened at such a young age, like I used to think it was normal, you know, at one point. And like I thought it happened to everybody, you know, but
of course.
People always, you know, threaten my mom, or you're like, I have access to your mom. If you say anything, I'm going to kill your mom. Or I had a little brother, or if it's not you, it's going to be your little brother. It's this thing, it's those thing. And that happened for probably till I was about 16. And then finally ended up getting like sick, and I was paralyzed from the neck down. And so kind of one trauma after the other. And then I was 25. I had stage 4 cancer, 7% chance of living. You know, I kind of went through a lot. So, you know, I was ignorant to a lot of things because I had to stay in my world and make sure that I lived.
Absolutely.
You know, so there's a lot of things I wasn't paying attention to. You know, I wasn't paying attention to the color war in the world because I had my own war going on, you know.
Absolutely.
And it's like, as I grow older and I'm still getting more ignorant, you know, I'm only in my healing journey. I say 3 years into my healing journey. You know, 3 years ago, I decided, you know what, there is something definitely wrong with my life and I need to start healing, you know. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm 3 years into that healing, and now that I'm kind of whole and like loving myself, and I'm in a really, really good spot, in a really good place in my life. I like where I'm in my selfish stage, Angelica. It is about me. If it don't benefit me, I ain't got time for it. You know what I'm saying?
But that's not, I don't think that's selfish, because it's not selfish when you realize that what you do individually comes into the collective. And if you're not healed individually, if you're not right individually, you're going to bring that into the collective.
Right, definitely. And I think that kind of is like the point, because I am healing. Now I'm open to the messages that you're giving, to the conversations that you're having. Now I'm starting to see, wow, there was a whole world outside of my pain that's in pain, and
but I love that I love how organically this conversation is happening, because I think you're illustrating again a human reality many times, especially like the body does this thing with pain.
Right.
Where if you have a headache, say for instance, but let's say you slice your hand open, you're not even going to know about the headache.
Right.
Your body's going to focus all its attention on the pain that's the most important right now, or that it needs the most attention.
Right.
And I think that that's something that our relationship with pain, and those that don't numb ourselves through it, that's something that our relationship with pain can tell us, is that there's something that we need to pay attention to.
Right.
But I think that what you also illustrate is one thing. What my Buddhist practice has brought me an understanding around too is the term or the concept of capacity.
Okay.
And understanding, when you talk about doing your best, that your capacity to do your best is going to be different from day to day.
Right.
Period.
Right.
So if you're dealing with something where you're paralyzed and you're doing certain things, or you got there's financial limitations, there's all these different things that limit a person's capacity to do anything.
Right.
And this is where I want to do like this, like, and take this little flame and blow on it a little bit. Because what I want folks to see and feel is that there's always value and space for you to build capacity.
Right.
And that looks different from day to day, but even when you are going through something, the practice of being a human being and recognizing someone else's humanity is being able to manage your own pain and have enough space.
Right.
Even if it's just a little bit.
Right.
I got 5 minutes today for you.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Or whatever it is. And then building that capacity, because I've become someone now that people, kind of have this like wonder around how I've demonstrated my capacity to be available to various people, communities, conversations, what have you.
Right.
But I have to say that, when I first was introduced to this Buddhist practice and I was building trans tech, one of my Buddhist mentors was telling me, I was telling him how I was just struggling with balancing it all. My credit score was in the tanker. My bank accounts were negative, but I was just called to the work. I was doing it. I was getting the results doing the work, but my personal life, is what have you. And so he said, well, Angelica, he was like, and I get goosebumps thinking about this, because this was before I had 2 nickels to rub together. I had 3 roommates in Los Angeles in this house, and this was around 2010. And he said, Angelica, your life, you have a big mission, and what I want you to do is to chant for the endurance that your life is asking from you.
Right.
So that and to chant for the endurance, and chant for you to increase your capacity to do it all, or to handle more. Not saying you should be someone who does it all and doesn't take rest.
Right.
What it says is that I'm suffering right now. That back then, I didn't have much. You know what I'm saying? I really was. I didn't have a lot, and yet I was here trying to build a nonprofit and doing all these other things.
Right.
Where and what on what planet? And so, like, you don't have anything. And
Right.
so, but with the intention,
Right.
with the correct intentions to increase your ability to respond to the challenges, not just your own challenges, but to be able to recognize, wait a minute, I'm not the only one who's experienced this,
Right.
who's been disabled by America, by COVID, or by the military, or by capitalism, or by violence, gun violence, or whatever it is. And when you recognize you're not the only one,
Right.
what you realize is that with my life, I have an opportunity to become part of the synergy of healing when someone experiences these things, because there's a lot of other synergy of what people do with their pain when they're not trying to heal.
Right. And I kind of wanted to add to that. I wanted just to remind people that both things can be true. And that was the biggest turning point for me, that I realized that I could be suffering and you could be suffering, and we both could be suffering at the same time. Like, this can be a reality. You know, I don't have to give your suffering more than my suffering. Like, you know, it's like I can have this, you could have that, and we can coexist together, and maybe we can help each other out. But both of them are true.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
But both of them are true no matter what it is, you know, because people suffer for different reasons. So it's like, and, you know, I hate the term big trauma, little trauma. I'm like, you're not going to tell me that something I feel is little, you know, we not going to have that. You're right.
Absolutely.
So it's no comparison, and there shouldn't be comparison. And to me, we can kind of go into that's, you know, another reason why our world is so messed up, because we want to do those things and place, you know,
it's so fruitless. It's so fruitless to compare. It's so fruitless, because what you have to do, like, because again, like you said, big trauma, little trauma. Okay, let's switch the words for a second. Big challenge, little challenge. Okay, well, let's just say my challenge is little, your challenge is big. At the end of the day, what we're talking about is what's keeping you from living the life you want to live.
Right.
Because sounds like that big thing or that small thing might be actually big for you.
Right.
So that's why you can't compare the sizes of those things. It's really fruitless, because it has everything to do with what you are doing with your challenges.
Right. And to me, I think that's why I expect Robert. I have a lot of respect for you. One of my favorite people in the world, right?
Thank you.
But it's like always the honesty in the things, you know, and it's like there probably have been things that I don't understand that you said or I don't agree with, but I recognize the truth in what you're speaking in. And it's like, okay, this is true. I may not understand it right now, but it's true because she's saying it. You know, and that's kind of a really big thing that you taught me. You know, you did teach me that, because a lot of things you said just made sense. And I feel like when you hear the truth, it makes sense. You know what I'm saying? There's something about the truth, especially when you're healing. There is something.
Eckhart Tolle talks about that. It's a spiritual thing. It's a thing that if you want to heal, if you want to, you know, experience certain things, then you have to, at the very least, open yourself up to recognizing when something you hear rings true.
Right. And then there's multiple things can ring true. And I think that's the thing that we just, you know, we forget. It doesn't just have to be limited to one thing. It's like so many different people in this world, and blood types, and just so many things to consider. How can one thing be true?
Well, you know, the problem that we get into is that when we want to create a truth, in which we want to enforce people to all agree on, and the reality, and I think that there's a conservative and liberal sort of talking point around both sides of this, because you have your Candace Owens out there who says, I'm a conservative, and I don't want you liberal nutsos forcing your reality onto me.
Right.
If I don't believe these things, I don't need to believe these things.
Right.
And I think what is so wild to me is that people miss, sweetie, no one is forcing you to believe anything or even to say anything.
Right.
Because you can continue to call trans women men.
Right.
Let me make sure that people are hearing me clearly.
Right, definitely.
You can continue to call trans women men. You can continue to call trans men women. You can continue to call black people the N-word if you're not black. You can continue to call women bitches if you're not a woman. You can do all of that. What you want to take responsibility for is the community you will create by doing those things. When you look up and look around you at the people who want to use the same language you want to use, and you recognize you're around a lot of people who don't mean any good to each other. So again, shout out to Peter Block, the author of a book called Community, who says the admission price for community is accountability. So do whatever you want to do, because Candace Owens, I don't give a damn about you because I'm not accountable to you. You're not accountable to me. Do what you want to do, sis. Live your life.
Right. But it's true. I mean, everything like snaps. You get snaps of those.
I know, every time she talks, like I could feel like her words, just like
you see how I became
so
infatuated
real.
with Angelica Ross. and see, one thing that's really cool about our episodes is like 92% of people who start them finish them. So it's really cool that they're going to hear this whole conversation. Okay,
amazing. Yes.
yeah.
So I want to know though, like, you know, everything you're saying, like I said, like I can feel that you're speaking like from the heart. Now, say that people aren't ready to heal or anything like that. How did you get to where you are now to be able to speak freely the way you are? Was there steps that you took to open up and actually speak from the heart?
Yes. So, I think there's a lot to. Okay, so I will say the first thing, I think the first key, I think that along the way there are keys or insights that help to operate as like a catalyst for understanding, for knowledge, and for those things. And so one of the biggest keys I can talk about is reading a book called The Voice of Knowledge by Don Miguel Ruiz. Now, many people might not know that book, but many people know the book, The Four Agreements. Okay. And so The Four Agreements was a book that, because of its, there's a lot of methodology behind things like marketing. And so when you have things like the 10 steps or the 4 this or the what have you, it's easy to remember. There's different things or what have you. So you have the 4 agreements: be impeccable with your word, always do your best, never take anything personally. And I forget what the 4th one is, but he has this book called The Voice of Knowledge, and it might be a little lesser known book. But what that book taught me, it was the first book that my therapist had given me when I went to therapy looking for hormones. I was just trying to get on hormones so I could start my transition and start doing my thing. Right. I didn't really think I had anything to fix or anything that was wrong with me. I ain't got nothing to talk about. but as I got to talking, and as she slipped me that book, there were just so many things. And so The Voice of Knowledge, one of the main things about that book that it taught me was that the voice that you have in your head, talking to you every day, the conversations you have going on, it is not yours. And if you have not recognized that yet, then today is the day that you start recognizing that. So the voice in your head is really a conditioning that starts from your parents.
Right.
But it's not just coming from your parents, it's coming from the society that informs your parents,
Right.
whether that be religion, whether that be conservative, liberal, what this, that, your race, ethnicity, this, that, culture, all kind of things.
Simon Says, I always tell people that's like the worst game. Simon Says, you didn't do what Simon said, go stand in the corner. Like, what?
Well, but we're so conditioned though by even what programs that we watch on TV about what we should think, what we should feel, what we should want.
Right.
So until you start to separate and identify that the voice that is talking to you actually might not have your best interest at heart.
Right.
They might still be actually telling you that you can't be that singer or that writer or that actor or that podcast host or that salesperson or that CEO or that whatever it is, when in reality that's your parents that were telling you that we don't do that or we don't, this, or a woman will never do this or what have you. So when you recognize that, first step, then to recognize that as a child into adolescence, into adulthood, that there is an entire machine from cartoons to movies to commercials telling you that you should feel like you want a car, or you want a successor, you want a wife, or you want this. There's all this propaganda telling you about who you should want to be as a man, as a woman, as this, as that.
Right.
So to understand that alone is to understand that some people have learned from the simple step of not falling asleep with the TV on. Because you realize that you're sleeping and allowing various subconscious messages to just continue to go in while you're sleeping.
Right.
This is what's happening while people are awake.
Right.
Because they are so unconscious to the fact that they are conditioned to think that the way that they are, that the radio playing, the TV going, the conversation with my parents, everything is reinforcing a conditioning. When you realize what's happening is, like in some sci-fi movie, that there's a stream connected to your head of constant information and messages. I'm ugly. I'm too dark skinned. I'm not skinny enough. I'm this, I'm that, or whatever. And as soon as you fucking pull that plug out.
You pulled that plug too.
And as soon as you pull the plug out and you're in silence and you start to rebuild that voice.
Right.
That is how I got to a place of speaking the way I do. That is a way I've gotten to speak confidently, is because I unplugged from that machine. And in some ways, like a dope fiend, hooked myself up to Eckhart Tolle and Dr. Wayne Dyer and all these like this books and Buddhist, all this stuff. And there were days when I was walking through my house and on Apple Music or on Play or whatever repeat is The Power of Now, A New Earth, on repeat every day. I finished it twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 times, whatever. And what I realized is that I was willing to do that because that's how much I was unconsciously being brainwashed by the other feed. Mm-hmm. So that's as much as I need. That's almost the least that I needed was to keep reminding myself, because I would snap back into the everyday thinking everybody else. No, remind yourself you don't have to plug into that.
Right.
So it's not, and that's what something that Eckhart Tolle talks in his books around, the growing gap of awareness in which you don't have to remind yourself so quickly.
Right.
But in the beginning, when you're doing that, you have to be on top of yourself. It's a vigilance. Right. And so that type of vigilance is what I want to encourage people to have around their life's responsibility.
Right.
Be vigilant about how you respond, when you respond, how much you respond, to whom you respond.
Right.
That vigilance will add to your health care, to your mental health.
Right. And doing all that and staying inside your capacity, right?
Absolutely.
Staying in.
And I would say, I will say not staying inside your capacity, being aware.
Okay, definitely.
Because there are just many days where you need to push beyond what you might have been capable of the day before.
Right, definitely. That's kind of one of my sayings. I'm like, tomorrow I'm gonna be better than I was today. Like
absolutely.
And you know what? And then I do that knowing that I might have setbacks. You know, I'm one of those people that I wake up angry. I don't know why. Something happened. I think I'm a Power Ranger in my sleep. Okay, and I be fighting and stuff, but I wake up angry.
What time do you wake up?
Usually about 6.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wake up kind of angry, and then I just for the rest of the day I'm just angry. I'm like,
why do you wake up at 6?
Because I have to go to work.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. So, what time do you have to be at work?
So really, I have to be there when I get there, kind of thing. so
like 8 o'clock.
So luckily, I'm the boss. So I kind of get there when I get there. But
so you have a commute?
Not really. It's like funny. Once again, it's about 6 minutes.
Oh wow, that's great.
6 is in my life a lot.
Yeah. So the reason why I asked you that, because I'm just about to give you, just a very organic, again, example in the responsibility, the ability to respond. When I talk a lot about winning. I have this this community that I built called the Winner's Circle. It's basically something like a LinkedIn, like a Facebook. It has community guidelines. It's free to join. Post anything you want, just not nudity and whatever. But we're just it's basically a community of people who encourage each other to win over whatever their challenges might be.
Oh, that's dope.
And just to so you got a job thing coming up, or you got a role you want, or whatever it is, just knowing that you actually can win at these things, but you also need to prepare yourself for that opportunity.
Right.
And to also understand that when it comes to winning, it's a mindset that is something that you have to be vigilant about moment to moment. And so there's this saying that we have in Buddhism. We talk about winning in the morning, and it's not something that is easy to do or that I always do. But this is what I'll say about that is practice your response to everything.
Right.
And so I'll say first, practice your response to the sun. Practice your response to the sun coming up.
Right.
Practice your response to waking up, to sleep, to the sensation of waking up. Your response to a cup of coffee, or your response to, like, again, the way you, like, if something's too hot or too cold. But is it really, or is it that I can condition myself to have more capacity for hotter things or for colder things, or, so I just say that to say that there's so many small moments in which you can practice your ability to respond differently every single day, like Groundhog Day, like the movie Groundhog Day.
Right.
Waking up and knowing that you're someone who, I don't know, I just wake up angry. Boom. What a great challenge to give yourself that could probably change, like have a drastic change on your entire life.
Right. So just to clarify though, I barely wake up angry. Okay. So I usually wake up like this, which is crazy. I'm one of those people like, look, Whitney Houston is my alarm. She comes on Higher Love.
Wonderful. Yes.
So that's my morning.
Whatever you have to do to get you into that spirit is all I'm saying is just realizing whatever it is. It could be that I don't eat well in the morning. I don't feed myself well before I leave the house, or there's been many things that I've done, and so realizing the clock resets every day for certain things and every second for other things.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty dope. Dropping jewels. Okay. And I wanted to say, so it's kind of funny. I stopped listening to my brain a long time ago because I realized how programmed I was. I call my abusers dementors, like in Harry Potter, because they try to suck the soul out of me. So my dementors, I knew put a lot of programming into me. So kind of like once I realized that I was thinking the wrong way, I kind of started living by my emotions. what I felt about it. And so I do things on how I feel about it, you know? And usually, and my brain will always contradict it, like, no, don't do that, you know? And it's like, no, but I feel like being generous, or I feel like giving this person this 5 minutes, or, you know, I feel like randomly calling somebody I haven't talked to in a long time, you know, like these are things. But I've also felt like dropping friends and letting go of people and ending bad relationships. So I'm kind of in that feeling everything out right now, right? So, you know, kind of in my selfish mode. So when I do wake up angry, I kind of always, right now, I feel like it's necessary because I'm still growing in my healing. So I allow myself to have it because I want to figure out where it comes from.
Absolutely. Well, that's what that's really,
I know that's what you were saying. I know that's
and it really is the relationship with it every day.
Right,
it's like, okay,
right.
so what is this?
Right. But I guess, you know, I didn't think about like the simple things, like, you know, like acknowledging the waking up, you know, or the brushing my teeth, or, you know, finding, you know, thinking about like the little small things. Because right away I'm thinking, I'm angry now. Why am I angry? Like, what happened that I'm angry? You know, like, what did I dream about? But I don't pay attention to like the smaller, like the seconds. Right. You know, it's like you said, is, you know, you think about the minutes and hours, but you don't think about the seconds. But they exist, they're important, you know. So like,
being able to slow down has, you know, really changed my life. You know, speaking of, you know, mental health, you know, I'm someone that has had a long journey into my ADHD diagnosis.
Right.
And so the way that I have looked at, not in, I won't say in complete judgment, because I think I've always understood in some level, but to think about somebody, let's say, who is bipolar.
Right.
Who doesn't want to take their medication because they feel fine.
Right.
But it's great when you feel fine. But when it's the medication is to keep the balance, you know?
Right.
And so it's odd to me that I spent so much of my life judging myself and saying, come on, Angelica.
Right.
I mean, all it takes for you is just to get organized and just, you know, just don't be so distracted. Do this, do that, do this, do that. And it's just simple. 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And when I could not do 1, 2, 3, and it became a lot more than that. And
you could do 50 things at a time or nothing at a time, right?
And one of the things that I discovered from my experience is not realizing and understanding how like layers of different things can confuse what was really going on. So say, for instance, I thought I also had anxiety, you know, and I do have anxiety, but you know, when I had anxiety and I went on medication for anxiety, I did not like the anxiety medication they put me on. I didn't like the way it made me feel.
Right.
I felt too checked out, you know, whatever the case is. And so for me, it was smoking weed. Smoking weed was like the thing that helped me with my anxiety the best.
Right.
And so that's what I did for a very long time. And that is why also when I, you know, get into political conversations around decriminalization, it's also around restorative justice and all these different things. And so I will always also talk from my own personal experience and be transparent. Other people might not say that they've smoked weed in politics or whatever. I'm going to say that because that led me in my journey to understand that I was treating my anxiety when really I should have been treating my ADHD.
Right.
The moment that I treated my ADHD, my episodes of anxiety almost disappeared. Like, I don't really experience anxiety anymore now that I'm on my medication because my attention. So I'm someone who, as we've talked about, I have a big capacity for my life. I build a big capacity. That shit will drive me.
Right.
Because I'm committed to it all.
Right.
With my heart.
Definitely.
10 toes down.
Definitely.
And I mean what I say. And I do what I say I'm going to do.
Right.
And so to be that committed and people will call on you still. And people call on me like I'm CNN sometimes now.
Right.
From Africa, Cuba, all over the world. And I'm like, sweetie, I'm really not that powerful. I mean, I will speak up on some stuff, but I really can't. I can't pick up the phone and call nobody and, make nobody do anything.
It's like Angelica for president. Here we go. Let's start the campaign now.
Well, we'll see. But, when I got to realizing that someone like me just needs to be able to feel calmness around the many things that I am called to do.
Right.
I need to not feel the urgency, the way that certain people might feel the urgency to have like a hit of a drug or something, or just even anything else. That's how much of an urgency I might have to complete or do something in the middle of something else that I'm doing, or whatever the case is. So to get that in order also got my emotions in order.
Right.
There were just so many things tied to it that I didn't know were tied to it.
Right.
Because I didn't have the space to regulate.
Right.
I didn't have the space to think and breathe because my brain was keep bopping to this, to this, to that, and was taking my body dry. So that by the end of the day, I'm passed out because I did everything that I could possibly do with this body, and now I'm tired. So when we learn to address what's really going on, what really is the issue, I think that our capacity to even see someone else grows.
Right, definitely. And I feel like that kind of goes straight into this episode where we talk about how expensive trauma is.
Right.
And in your situation, part of that was your ADHD. And I'm pretty sure a whole bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
That kind of, just cost you a lot. I think about all the time it cost me, all the fun time with my family, because, I was going through this stuff. My family didn't know. So I was protecting them because I grew up with an awesome family. My mother and father were great. So they caused trauma, but not big traumas, But, I was still, by myself in the room. I was in the dark, in black, and like all these kind of things. And I think about like the time I could have spent with my family, the time my father passed away in 2021. And it's like, heck, I probably could have got to know him more or differently to understand some things. But because I wasn't dealing with this trauma or I didn't seek treatment, and I think it's really dope that you talk about therapists, because I had a therapist too, and she taught me how to talk, and now I won't shut the hell up. So,
which is good, yes.
Right. I'm pro therapy too. It's like whatever it takes to get you to a point where
you're happy.
Right. Or kind of like you said, you're dealing in your capacity. You can handle your capacity. You can handle the things that you're dealing with, what you're feeling, your current position in life, who you are at the moment, because I tell people every day, I'm perfect. Okay. I don't give a damn what nobody says. Yes. I am perfect. Why am I perfect? Because there is only one me.
Absolutely.
There is nobody I can compare myself to. I had this conversation with my niece, and she says, so you don't think you could get better? To me, that doesn't matter right now, because today I am my best version. Mm-hmm. Tomorrow I'll be better, because that is my goal, to always be better than I am the day before. But right now I'm standing in my perfection. And I think that allowing myself to take that moment has been the biggest part of my growth, to realizing there's nothing wrong with you. Yeah. It's just something wrong with all these people that's telling you something wrong with you.
Well, because all those people are saying you should be here, which is some sort of destination. And again, I think a lot of religion, a lot of places have put us into what I'll call bad practices,
right?
Bad behaviors. And the reason why I'll say this is because a lot of religion, even though we call them religious practices, people they're not in the actual form of practicing. Right. So if you're not in the form of if you're not in the mindset of this practicing this on a daily basis, then you don't understand that perfection is practice. Practice is perfection, and practice is daily life. So you are perfect,
right?
Because today's practice is perfection.
Right, you're right. Okay. You see more snaps. You did say you could go with the flow, right? Like, we need to stop messing with you.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
So I know you got a lot going on. I kind of just wanted you to, well, number one, I wanted to ask, was there anything that you wanted to say that we didn't get to give you a chance to say or convey to our audience?
I just, like I said, I think we conveyed a lot. And I think, when we talk about trauma is expensive, baby, is it ever expensive? Because I think about, I had to do a lot of work in my life in order to speak of myself with such esteem and value as I do without feeling away.
Right.
And I say that because I have gained so much value in my life from my experience.
Definitely.
From my education, from just a lot of different things. And so I've met a lot of people who have seen themselves in me because we have crossed similar bridges.
Right.
We have crossed similar streets. We have lived in similar neighborhoods and similar towns. And sometimes people have mistakenly conflated themselves with being the same as me.
Right.
And I say that to say that there's this oversimplification that happens when people get into proximity of me and my life and the things I do.
Right.
And some might think, even whether it was my situation with Ryan Murphy or whoever else, well, shit, if I was in that situation,
right,
I would just do this, and that.
Right.
And what I want to convey is that I've been a hoe. I've been a housewife. I have been a CEO. I have been a cash register attendant at Arby's.
Right.
A waitress at Applebee's. I've sold credit card processors door to door. I have worked through, in order to get to where I'm at, what I have to teach people is this. Life is like a video game. And unless you got a publication, a book, or a website that is giving you the cheat code,
Right.
you got to go through and pass the board, baby.
Right.
And if you don't pass that board, guess what? You got to do it again.
Right.
So what folks don't understand about Arby's, McDonald's, retail jobs, Wet Seal, Forever 21, whatever, you name them all.
Right.
Ain't got nothing to do with the job, baby. And everything to do with you.
Everything. Right.
Everything. And so if you don't face what's yours to face, if you wasting your time focusing on what your coworker doing and didn't do, all up in her business.
Right.
She came in late. She didn't do this. She didn't do that.
It's so annoying. Like, mind your damn business.
If you don't focus on what you need to focus on, you will repeat that.
Right.
And so if you don't address the trauma and the things that you're getting to, it'll get so bad that you think because you're getting older. And sometimes when you get older, you're given a different job because you're just older than the teenager that has the job.
Right.
And you might be a little bit more responsible because you're older and got a little bit more experience, but you still haven't passed the level.
Right.
But let's say you get to a level where you can do some basic stuff like running errands and getting coffee and making photocopies and answering a phone and answering an email, or maybe, doing something on the calendars. I'm getting a little bit more advanced, but let's just say that it's simple things like that.
Right.
Those things can put you in all kind of environments.
Right.
All of a sudden, you're an assistant to on a music video shoot or on a production. That's why they call them production assistants, because they pay them about $12 to $14 an hour to just tell them to do whatever. Has nothing to do with the job and everything to do with your responsibility,
Right.
how you respond to the environment, to the challenge, to the job. If you do not face what your challenges are and what your trauma is, not only could it cost you that job,
Right.
it could cost you future experiences in that industry, in that lane.
Right.
So there are people who have taken for granted being my assistant.
Right.
And I'm not talking about no Miranda Priestley, let me treat you bad type situation. I'm talking about an opportunity period. I'm
Right.
talking about whatever it is. And if you don't show up to the job, if you're not delivering things, if you didn't complete a thing and a task or whatever, and I need to get rid of you, even then, it's fine
Right.
because things happen.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
But if the narrative after the event has happened is all about them and the job and what was bad about the job and not about what you didn't do
Right.
and what you could improve on or what have you, then you're not going to get past that level.
Right.
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 So it's so expensive because like I've learned so many lessons and I've lost so much money.
Right.
I've lost money on even family that I have tried to bring into a space and teach things to, but they were in such their trauma
Right.
that how could I even blame them
Right.
for not just wasting the opportunity, but wasting my money and time?
Right.
Because at the end of the day, I also have to be in better practice and
Right.
better awareness
Right.
that we're all walking around here with traumas.
Definitely.
Yep.
And so being an adult and taking responsibility for your life is understanding how to protect yourself
Right.
Mm-hmm.
while still engaging with people,
Right.
not disconnecting from everybody and just calling it quits.
Right. Right. Right.
Yeah.
Like I don't work that way.
We got that's the only way is through it. So
Right.
you again, there's a lot of people who have such avoidant behavior. You stop that.
Right.
You're not fooling anybody and you're not going anywhere
See, because
by avoiding the problem.
you kind of started into my next question, because we I get a lot of DMs and emails and those kind of things from people who watch our episodes, and one thing that I get a lot of is, well, I haven't, my trauma's not as bad as yours, or I haven't had it that bad, or it's always somebody out there with bigger problems, and I just kind of wanted to see what your advice is to those people who have listened to everything you said but still thinking, well, I know so and so down there, or
Right.
there was just, a homeless man on the corner, and so they don't want to consider their issues.
Okay. So again, everything is balance.
Right.
So what you're talking about is another extreme. And on the other side of that extreme is someone, and remember we talked about who their capacity is so small, all they can focus on is their own problems.
Right.
Right.
They can't hear anybody else when they're saying, well, girl, I got problems too. I was trying to tell you that, my man, they don't hear none of that.
Right. Right. Right.
All of that. So again, and that's why I love the concept. Just even if you don't practice Buddhism, the philosophy of it
Right.
Right.
brings so many different things into clarity, and understanding the yin and yang of things, is understanding the balance and things of the both and of things.
Right.
So if you ever find yourself, this is the answer to that person. Being on any extreme is never a healthy place.
Right.
So seek balance.
Balance. Definitely.
So if you find that you are focusing on the people in Palestine, right? And you're focusing on, the Black Lives Matter movement, and you are focused on, LGBTQ rights, and you're focusing on all these things as a way to avoid focusing on yourself.
Right.
Find balance, sweetie.
Right.
Because you're not doing anybody any favors or being a martyr or whatever it is that you're doing, trying to exhaust yourself for every cause.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
So the key is always balance. And I think that is something that is like one of those, again, keys that you keep in your purse to bring out any time that you need to assess something.
Right.
So we talk about capacity, we talk about balance, we talk about, again, another thing, my podcast that I have is No Opportunity Wasted.
Right.
Now, and the reason why is from the Buddhist perspective, we always say, well, we have this concept called time and capacity. And part of that teaching is understanding when is the right time to act, to take action, to say anything. The time is always now.
Right.
The difference is always the capacity.
Right.
Of you and your environment and other people. So you need to become practice into becoming someone who is measured, balanced, measured in the way they approach conversations, environments, and things, so that you are never giving too much.
Right.
You're always giving just enough.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Okay. Like we see you. So of course I'm going to list all of your contact information below and the links to your podcast. And your podcast is kind of, I know you invite specialists. Sometimes you just have regular people. It's kind of that kind of situation. So it's kind of, conversations are endless, it's like
the reason why the conversations are endless is because the point of this podcast and conversation is in the vein that people have heard the fact that I'm going to be entering into politics and doing those sort of things.
Right.
But I need to continue to do what Buddhism has done for me and to hold up a big ass mirror of a reflection and to everyone else to realize this ain't about me. And this is never has been.
Right.
And I am great and I'm wonderful and beautiful and talented and all these different things. And I own all of that.
Right.
But so are so many other people. And what is more important for us to understand is that there is a reason why in the Bible, which again, I'm not a Christian, but I can always connect to truth.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I can always connect to deep spiritual understandings and teachings. And so there's a reason why not coveting, they would talk about obviously coveting someone else's wife, but like the act of coveting itself is not healthy, because we have to understand the price that is baked in to the experience. Each moment you experience something, each moment you say yes to something, you are saying yes to paying the price or not.
Right.
And so you have a lot of people who are willing to keep going and keep paying the price that was put in front of them. The long hours to practice at basketball or singing or doing whatever, they kept saying yes. There are other people like me when the gym comes up and am I going to go to the gym? And I keep paying the price of saying no. Because I keep saying
you and me too. I say no too.
And so that's not adding up to what I would like it to add up because I'm not saying yes to those moments. And so, but to understand the input output, but more so than input output is more of a reciprocal nature of that relationship with challenge.
Right.
Is to then understand on the other side of things is that not only are your challenges yours, but there is such power in each person's life.
Right.
Let's just take yours, for example. In Buddhism, we have this concept about becoming a celebrity of the mystic law.
Okay.
I am a celebrity in Hollywood. I am also becoming a celebrity of the mystic law because people in Hollywood celebrate me because I am known for my roles on Pose, American Horror Story, Claws, Doubt, transparent. I could just name all the different things.
Right.
Roxy Hart on Broadway, all those things. So I have things to be celebrated for as a celebrity in Hollywood.
Right.
Unfortunately, celebrity culture has seeped into our society as a value.
Right.
And so we celebrate people and things that we should not value and celebrate.
Right.
Especially because those very things don't reciprocate the value to us.
Right.
So to understand that when you become a celebrity of the mystic law says that no matter who you are, what life you come from, what place on the planet you come from, what your ability is, your sex, gender, whatever, that you can have you can create a valuable and enlightened, peaceful life.
Right.
And contribute that to the world.
Definitely.
Everybody can do that, no matter what you've been through.
Right.
Now, when you have someone like yourself who has said that you've been through the things that you have been through and gone through the things that you have gone through, there are people whose worlds have ended at that experience.
Right.
That's how important it is for you to illustrate there's life beyond that.
Right, definitely.
So you will be celebrated by people who recognize what you've done with your life.
Right.
If we become a community of people,
right,
a culture of people, a society of people who celebrate people who should be celebrated.
Right, definitely.
Jonathan Majors getting the Perseverance Award at the Hollywood Unlocked Awards. I don't necessarily think that that's the sort of, not when you're given there are people with less.
Right.
Who are trying to make the right decisions, who are trying to move with the best ways that they can.
Right.
Those are people who should be celebrated.
Definitely.
Who are not abusing people, who are not taking advantage of people's resources, who are not manipulating, who are not lying, who are not going about it the way that we know can win you favor.
Right.
I'm sorry. If you're not clear already, let's be clear. Lying, cheating, or being willing to be an accomplice, witness,
right,
or silent contributor to,
right,
is profitable. So to even expand it even more is to say the more willing you are to be an accomplice to capitalism's end goal, the more you will experience its profit.
Right.
So that's why we have to be in practice with a reevaluation of each other and what we value and how we value each other. And it starts with how you value yourself and your own experiences.
Definitely.
Once you do that, you would not be here talking to me right now. You would not have your own podcast right now if you hadn't started somewhere at valuing your own experiences and saying, this is worth me sharing.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's kind of a perfect segue into what we're doing with this podcast, because we want to make this podcast about you, you, the audience, you, the people, everybody has a story to share, and we want to create this platform, much kind of, I say your network. Sounds pretty cool. I'm going to join it. But, it's much about that. It's about community and kind of just supporting each other and uplifting each other and just sharing, so many experiences. I've had a world of trauma, but I haven't had all the trauma,
Right.
So it was like I could share my experience, but sometimes I need to hear about yours, because I need to know that it's not just limited to what I went through. You know.
But I'll tell you this, a lot of times, so what happens in the winner's circle, so, I'll say for your listeners here, so with the winner's circle, it's a free platform like a LinkedIn, like a Facebook, for people to, post about their things. We cheer each other on, all that kind of good stuff. Now, there is an added layer. Capitalism, of course, it's just we all participate in our own ways. But this is just a way in which I've been able to, as a celebrity, put boundaries around my actual real time and engagement.
Right.
There's so many people in my DMs asking all kind of questions from, hey, did you see this show, to how do I become a singer or actor, or start my own business, or get out of this, or do this or that,
Right.
And so I am one person, only one person. And, on Meta's platforms, I am limited. And so I created the Winner's Circle as a space that not only, obviously, if it's my platform and I'm on there and I'm engaging, I just engage, period. I might comment or whatever. But for different levels, like for a $4.99 a month, that gets people access to one free what we call Winner's Circle Wednesday event. Happens at 8 p.m. on Wednesday nights. And it's literally a Zoom meeting with me.
Okay.
$4.99 a month gets them one of those. And so that's wild, first of all. But at night, or excuse me, I said that wrong. I said that wrong. So actually they do get those things, but they get that in playback, so they can see some of those things in playback. They can get access to those video playback at $19.99 a month. They at $20 a month, so they get this private space to meet and talk with me. Specifically around the Winner's Circle is around understanding that none of us have to be losers. We all can be winners, and understanding that your challenges are yours. So let us focus and talk on what it is that you need to do, or the things that you need to see clearly in order to win in your current circumstances or with your moment. It's like having me as a personal coach, but in a small group of people, because only, you got so many people who are paying $20 a month. Now at $40 a month, people are getting that weekly. So I'm doing that every week on every Wednesday. People are and since it's less people doing that, it's more, what have you. But it's still a spectrum of being in an environment that is focused on positivity and winning. And if you're not personally winning, being able to look to your left and your right and see how someone else is winning over in their challenge.
Right.
I have people in my Winner's Circle who are facing eviction. People who have, been doing various things. And the thing about being in the Winner's Circle with me is that, again, this is not being a fan. This is not about being a fan of Angelica Ross and being able to be in that space, because you might not be a fan of me after you've been in the Winner's Circle. And I tell you that in order to win in your moment, you're going to have to maybe change something that you're doing that's not adding up to what you say you want.
Right.
So
I'm hard truth.
The admission price for a community is accountability. And so for many people, I'm that accountability factor. I don't have a personal stake in you losing. I want to see you win. But I'm not going to sit here and affirm the lies that you tell yourself.
Right. Definitely.
And so it's that kind of space. And people quickly realize and value, that, because there's just not a lot of that out there. I'm not doing it at prices where I'm trying to take advantage of people and trying to, get rich off of folks or whatever. I'm just creating a community in a space that says, let's value this. So if you value my time, don't waste my time asking me about some movie in my DMs or sharing, whatever. I wouldn't do that to Oprah. I wouldn't do that to Ava. I'd be asking Ava, okay, how did, whatever. If I had someone's time and ear about getting over on a challenge or whatever, I'd really make it count.
Definitely.
So this is about literally understanding the value in your own life, because if you don't treat someone else's time like that, how can you expect someone to treat your time and your life like that?
Right. And honestly, when you think about how often you spend $5, $20, or $40 on something that has no benefit to your life, is like, it's cheaper than therapy.
Absolutely. And again, and it's not, it's you cancel whenever you want to do it. It's whatever. But it's one of those things. It's just that you think about it this way. There's just so many fans that I have who will pay $20 just to, get a picture or whatever. Yeah, or say hi or what have you. And so, I've had to, again, value that time and realize that just because I am in an LGBT community, just because I am in a Black community, just because I'm famous doesn't mean everybody's my audience.
Right.
that everybody who's in the LGBTQ community even values me or what I even say.
Right. Definitely.
So I don't need to put myself in a space where people are constantly extracting from me that don't value me.
Right. Definitely. You know what? Even more reason for me to join the winner circle. Okay.
Yeah, trust me. We have tons of podcast hosts in there that actually it's so funny because they end up just really supporting each other, just not only in the experience of it, but being able to share each other's shows and stuff like that. It's not a competition thing. Yeah.
It is funny because people, I'm one of those people. We're actually pretty top ranked, and so I think today we're number 7 on Spotify.
Yes, come on.
Look, taking my little bit of credit, but also it's funny when people ask you like, "Oh, well, who are some of your competitors?" And it's like, I don't know.
Yeah,
because it was
we're here for mental health. We're not here to.
It's somebody. Like we're glad that people are paying attention, and we're glad that we're able to inspire. Of course, with everything that we said, we can't make anybody heal.
Right.
And we can't make anybody want to do anything. But we hope that we inspire you to be able to sit down as Angelica and tell you how brilliant and amazing and incredible she is, but also recognize that she is also kind of belongs to the world in a way,
because I'm just a reflection of the world.
Exactly.
And I tell people this all the time. It's like I can have 2 different experiences. I can walk to a pride, and I can run into a young Black queer person who sees me,
right,
and is like, "Oh my goodness, you, Angelica Ross. Oh my goodness, you are so intelligent and beautiful and just smart and compassionate and kind." And what I'm telling that person is, all you are doing is looking in the mirror.
Right.
Because all that you see in me is in you. You wouldn't even be able to see it or witness it. Right. And so at that same very pride, I will walk into someone who says, "You make me sick.
Right.
You are an abomination.
Right.
You don't deserve love." And if I get the chance to, I can hopefully communicate to that person that, "Sweetie, I am only a reflection."
Right.
About how you feel about your own life.
Definitely.
Because I'm here. You brought that to the party.
Right.
I brought this. You brought that.
Right. I kind of always felt that way about people lying. People always, like I'm a very forgiving person, and I kind of really legit love everybody. Like I'm one of those people. But just recently someone said something and the person left, and someone else was like, he's lying to you, right? And I'm like, I know. And they're like, well, why didn't you say anything? Because he needed to lie. That was about him. Right. He needed to tell that lie. So I'm going to give him the space to tell that lie. And then if he ever wants to change it and talk about it, I'm here, Right. But he has to be the person. But, I am the person also sometimes to call you out on a lie. I guess it depends.
That's an advanced, listen, that's an advanced place to be. I applaud you on that, because most people aren't that advanced to understand that. Like, it's really one of those things that if you have the capacity, right. It's what it means to when a thief takes your jacket to also give them your shirt.
Right. Well, I realized a long time ago that I kind of went through a lot of horrible things, and in that I kind of became a reflection of the things I went through. So there was a point in my life where I was a horrible person, and in that state I hurt people and I destroyed people and I punished people and I did probably some incredible things. I might have even destroyed lives. Never physically, but just the emotional turmoil and those kind of things. Pretty funny. I ran into
take responsibility. Come on.
Oh, I take it. Trust. And I ran into an accident. It makes me laugh when not laugh funny, but it's like, it's so true because I ran into an accident like I had when I was like 9, and it's like, "Oh, it's so good to see you," and it's like, "No, it's not good to see you." And I was like, "Damn, like I fucked them up, like jeez, I didn't mean to do all that, but it was like we were 9, but it just goes to show I really was reflecting everything you said, like kind of the hate and the anger and just all the things I was going through. But one thing that I realized is that I was all I could be at that moment. I couldn't be nothing else because this is what the world was giving me, And it's like, in recognizing that, I recognize that other people are just all they can be at that moment. I knew that I wanted to change. I kind of woke up one day, it hit me and it says, hey, if you continue to live this life, number one, you're not going to have no life. Right. There's not going to be one. So I was like, I want life. And I did things, I actively did things. I moved away from all my family and friends. I felt like I needed a kind of fresh start. I didn't need to influence anybody. I wanted to do this journey alone because my life had been controlled by so many other people for so long. When I finally started living on my own, not having to cook for somebody else was crazy to me. Like, I'm cooking and I get to eat right after I cook. Like, that was a treasure. Like, usually I'm feeding people first, and then I eat what's left, in the last, and it's cold by the end because I'm making sure everybody else is good. But now I get the damn hot food tastes good. It's nice when it's hot and it's nice when it's crispy, so it's like I started to learn these kind of lessons. But, it's like I recognize my battles and my struggles and the things, and it's like I could have ended up differently. There's many people who have been through horrible things and still end up being good people. I wasn't one of them at the time. I kind of was a reflection of the world and I did some things and I just realized I was tired of hurting people. I was tired of making other people suffer for things they didn't do. Right. I had to stop seeing everybody as someone who was out to get me, but then I kind of went twofold and now I like give everybody 100% of my trust immediately. It's like, oh, I trust you. But
balance.
No, the reason I do that though is because I say if you violate it, it's not because I didn't give it to you. Very true. So I have a reason now to walk away. True. I can't like, you can't hold it against me after this one mess up. I'm in a relationship now and he knows the first time I feel unhappy, this is done. Now I'm not saying that we can't have issues and can't have problems and struggle, but the first moment I am not happy.
You recognize unhappiness, yes.
Right, and it's over. Ain't no second chance.
I think that what you're talking about too is that, because in Buddhism we make a clarification between absolute happiness and relative happiness.
Right.
And basically, it's this thing that I have a happiness that is not shaken by circumstance.
Right.
It's not shaken by like an argument or by my meal being cold or certain things or what have you. Like, okay, whatever.
Right.
But I have this absolute happiness, but if there's if something does truly make me unhappy,
right,
it's not just because the food is cold.
Right.
It's not just because of this one argument.
Right.
I'm not happy.
Right. And I'm too old to be living in a space that's not happy.
Absolutely.
I know we ain't supposed to put categories, but I'm too old for that. Like,
absolutely.
I gotta enjoy life while I can. Well, I'm sorry for running over with you. Look, I feel
and I gotta go. Yes. But yes.
I'm like, oh my God, we could have kept going forever. I just looked at it. I was like, oh snap, we're running over.
But I'm glad that this all was great conversation.
It was a beautiful conversation. And just for the audience, just know that we want you to come on and just like Angelica, be able to tell your truth, tell your lessons, promote yourself, do the things that you could do. But most importantly, we want you to inspire because you are inspiring, whether you realize it or not. Yes. And Angelica, you are incredible. Big hearts. I'm gonna keep following you. I'm gonna actually join your
please do. Yes, it's win.missross.com. win.missross.com.
Okay, yeah. So I'm definitely gonna join the platform. I like anything that's positive.
Thank you.
And thank you so much for co-hosting with us. Thank you so much for teaching us so much amazing things. And guys, we will see you next week. Peace, love, and blessings.
Bye.
And that brings us to the end of yet another insightful episode of Trauma is Expensive. I'm signing off on behalf of your host, Micah Bravery, reminding all you brave souls to continue counting the cost and making the change. Don't forget to visit www.traumaisexpensive.com, a dynamic space for understanding, healing, and transformation, where we fuel the journey to turn pain into progress. Until we meet again, stay resilient, stay empowered, and remember the mantra, count the cost and make the change. Thank you for being part of the conversation. We bid you farewell until next time.